and that's MJ. And I tell you now, you log this. This man will beat Naoya Inoue.
Finalising terms for Akhmadaliev to fight Inoue in September. The upcoming fight with Cardenas can only be for undisputed if we allow it in Japan in September with agreed terms.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys are all doing well. As you can see, Eddie Hearn just announced the fact that Naoya Inoue against MJ Akhmadaliev looks like it will be happening in September. Looks like that deal is getting finalized. Obviously, Inoue's got a fight coming up next month, which I will be in attendance for. That fight's going to be in Las Vegas, so definitely excited to watch Naoya Inoue in person for the first time. But then shortly after that, he'll be preparing to fight against MJ Akhmadaliev at 122 pounds. Now, a couple obviously interesting things that Eddie Hearn mentioned. First things first, obviously Eddie Hearn saying, who's Inoue fighting? Is it Cardenas? Things of that nature. That's just Eddie Hearn being Eddie Hearn. I mean, look, if I'm being honest, and I'm a massive Naoya Inoue fan, I do think it has been a little bit of time since we've seen a very exciting fight and seen a fight where, we're really anticipating. I think the Sam Goodman fight would have been a great fight, but obviously, pulled out 2 or 3 times, so we never got to see that. June stepped in and, there wasn't really that much excitement for that fight. I think Tapales was a good fight, but again, I think a lot of people favored Inoue going into that. And then obviously TJ Dehaney, who was pretty much a keep busy type fight, keep busy type opponent. So I think the MJ Akhmadaliev fight is going to be very interesting. I think this is a fighter that a lot of people do know in America, MJ Akhmadaliev. He's got a big promoter behind him in Eddie Hearn. And they've obviously mentioned the fact that, Naoya Inoue is scared, running away, things of that nature. So I do think that people are going to be interested in that fight. And I think that's good. It's always good when there's some jeopardy. And I think this is going to be the first fight probably since Fulton where, some people actually will pick MJ to win the fight. So I think it's, it is going to be very interesting. Obviously, Inoue has to get past Cardenas first in Vegas. Cardenas, good, strong Mexican fighter. But I think Naoya Inoue will get past him. And then it looks like MJ in September. Another very interesting thing that Eddie Hearn said, he said that fight's going to be happening in Japan. I think that's interesting because I think a lot of us thought that, Riyadh Caesar was going to be involved. And there was a good chance that that fight was going to happen in Saudi Arabia on one of the cards there in September. Looks like that's not the case, and that fight will be happening in Japan. So obviously MJ, he's got to travel. And that's the thing. I mean, look, Inoue is going to be obviously the hometown, the favorite fighter, but they're very fair in Japan. That's one thing I actually noticed. Number one, it's not really a hostile type territory. The fans, they're quite quiet. And as well, even the judges, I think they're very fair in Japan. You don't really see any robberies there. I even remember in the Stephen Fulton fight, in the Tapales fight, the judges were very fair. I mean, they gave Fulton some rounds. They gave Tapales some rounds in those fights where in the Fulton fight, you're generous to really give him 1 round. So I think, definitely interesting to hear from Eddie Hearn that fight's pretty much finalized. It's going to be undisputed. And in my opinion, I think that will be the last fight for Naoya Inoue at 122 pounds. It's a fight that I think he wins. I think he beats MJ Akhmadaliev. Tough fight, but I don't think MJ is any different than a Tapales. And obviously MJ lost against Tapales. But I think he's the same type of fighter. I think he's tough. I think he's strong. I think he's going to come forward. He's got some heart. He's going to bring it. But that is nothing that Naoya Inoue hasn't seen. So I think he'll be a massive favorite. I think this will probably be his last fight at 122 pounds. And then the big one, moving up to 126. And there are some very, very big names at 126. Obviously, Bruce Carrington just fought this weekend, called out Inoue. In my opinion, I don't think Bruce Carrington's ready for that level. I'm not even sure Bruce Carrington is ready for Fulton or Nick Bull, to be honest with you. But obviously, Nick Bull, Naoya Inoue have had a few exchanges between themselves. So that's a fight that I think that, could happen either end of 2025 or beginning 2026. So definitely exciting times. I'm happy that, we're going to get this MJ against Inoue fight, because I think, people have talked about it. Eddie Hearn's made a lot of noise. So we'll be, very excited to see that. But obviously before that, we've got that fight in May against Cardenas in Vegas. And again, I will be in attendance for that fight. So definitely, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back shortly.